Hi, it's Sarah Devereaux here, and welcome to the Balancing Life and Heels Show, helping successful businesswomen to achieve success and balance in both their personal and their professional lives. So on today's podcast, we have Michelle Hoskin, otherwise known as Little Miss Wow. So we're truly honoured to have Michelle on our show today. She is a very successful businesswoman in a male-dominated industry of financial services, and she's here to chat with us about how she is balancing her life in heels. So, Michelle, I'm aware that you recently have come to New Zealand and Australia with your daughter Ruby.
I did.
And you've done a tour, which is really exciting, with your WOW workshops. So I'd really love to hear, and I'm sure our listeners would too, about what are you doing now and how do you help people?
With pleasure. So my primary market is obviously in a very, as you said, a very male-dominated financial services world. My clients are primarily business owners who run financial services practices and firms globally. And yeah, we recently did a tour, a 3-week tour of Australia and New Zealand. And I was talking about the 8 principles of WOW, which in very simple terms is how the concepts around how a financial advisor who predominantly owns these businesses is able to apply 8 principles to wow not just their clients but also their team, their families, their key stakeholders, and pretty much in everything that they do in their business. And yes, my little daughter came with me.
Fantastic. What an amazing experience, and I'm sure they got a lot out of your 8 principles of WOW. And so I'd love to know what's really exciting for you in your business right now.
Blimey. I suppose the biggest thing that's going on is the transition that we're going from a lifestyle business into a proper, all grown up, a business that would function pretty much without me. Because the business started when I was only 19. Entering a very, very heavily regulated and very male-dominated business, which was financial services, and the business was very much predominantly revolving around me and my personality, and that went on for a long time. But the most exciting thing is that I'm actually doing less service delivery and less kind of one-to-one work, and doing a lot more group workshops, obviously presentations, tours, obviously global tours, and similar. So that's probably the most exciting, because I can actually get to do the job that I really love to do, which is, innovate, come up with new ideas, not just for my business, but also for the benefit and the businesses of our clients.
Fantastic. That's so exciting, and it sounds as though when you present and when you run your workshops, you're in your element.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your business has really, really progressed since you were 19. So I know that you've been doing this for a wee while now, and you're fiercely motivated to achieve in your business and truly dedicated to creating WOW for your clients and teaching them to create WOW in their businesses and in their families and for their stakeholders. And so I'd love to hear, Michelle, in the past, what has shaped you to be who you are today?
I think the biggest person that's had influence over my life has been my dad. He was a very hard-working, go-getting. Nothing was a problem, although he's a bit grumpy as he's got a bit older, to be honest. But he always wanted nice things. He always wanted to achieve amazing things in his work. And he was a builder. He ran a building company all the years I was growing up. But he was a very active guy, very positive, and just a really hard worker. And I think both my parents, luckily for me now, made me a very independent little girl. So, I wanted to do a paper round. I wanted to get a job. There was no way they was ever going to organise that for me. It was, get on the phone, and if you want it, make it happen. And those are, I suppose, the principles and the lessons that I've taken all the way through, and I, try and apply them to my little girl now. So yeah, it's just having the confidence and that independence, and if you want something bad enough, you've got to go and get it.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds as though your parents have really helped to shape who you are and taught you some key principles back when that you've obviously taken through your life with you today and are passing on to Ruby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Michelle, are you able to tell us a bit of a story of a time where in your journey you said enough is enough and you decided possibly on a different path? And I'd love to hear what those initial steps were that you took to take action.
Yeah, with pleasure. I think it sort of all started at the age of 36, which actually wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few years really. And I think there was a turning point. I was actually at a financial services conference in I think it was Anaheim, and I got chatting to a financial advisor who I didn't know, just happened to be chatting to him at the bar one evening, and we were talking about life and how we got here, and he actually asked me, and he said, this guy was a total.
Michelle, I'm sorry, your camera's frozen, and I've lost you. I can hear you again.
I'm back. Sorry about that, Sarah. Hold on 1 second.
That's all right. No worries.
I'm back.
Great. Thank you.
Sorry.
So that's okay. So maybe we'll just
ask that again.
Yeah, I'll ask that question again.
Sorry.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, Michelle, I'd love to hear about your story and a time in your journey when you said enough is enough and you decided on a different path in life. And what were those initial steps that you took to take action?
Okay, so it probably happened about 3 years ago, and I'm not exactly sure that this is the conventional story that, I don't know, other people might tell, but this is the truth story. So I think the reality is that we are all trying to do too much, and it was about 3 years ago. I was chatting to just a financial advisor that I'd met at a conference, and we were just chatting in the bar. I didn't know him, and often we're very happy to talk to complete strangers about the most intimate things in our lives. And he asked me, he said to me, was I happy? And the default answer is always yes, obviously, and you don't really think about it. But this particular moment, it might have been because I'd probably had too many wines at the time, but I actually took a moment and thought to myself, I don't think I am. And I think what had happened was I'd been doing a lot of work around the wow, and I actually for a moment thought, actually, is my life wow at all? And it wasn't. And obviously I wasn't happy with the answer that I gave, but I gave him an honest response to his question. And I didn't like it, and I literally took a blank sheet of paper the next morning, and I literally wrote down the 10 areas of my life, and I decided at that moment to pick a date or an age in the future, and it was the eve of my 40th birthday. And I literally wrote down how my life was in these 10 areas on the eve of my 40th birthday, and those areas didn't look really anything like they looked at that moment. And literally at that conference, I decided that, I realized that I was Little Miss Wow trying to change the world. But what I actually needed to do, first of all, was change my own. And that's what I did. So I literally got on that aeroplane, and I got off a very different person than I got on the aeroplane.
Wow, what an absolutely inspirational story. And that's an amazing self-awareness that you've had, as opposed to just looking outwards. You decided to look deep within yourself and live congruently with who who you were being externally. Amazing. And so, Michelle, how did you get over the pain associated with the change that you had to make? Because I know change can be difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you know, I needed to want it more than I wanted anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went through the 10 areas, you know, I designed them as though I was living them. So they were very real to me. So they were, you know, it was down to my, you know, my physical appearance, my mental, emotional state, financially, my environment, and I had to be very brutally honest. And to be truthful, this was in the June. I probably didn't say anything to anybody until probably about the end of September in that same year, because I needed to absolutely make sure that I was prepared to go through what pain I knew was coming to actually achieve what I wanted to achieve. And it took me a long time, you know, from the June to the September to pluck up the courage to start having those conversations with people. One of the biggest and probably one of the most difficult conversations I had to have was with my partner at the time, who I'd been with for 12 years. And obviously he was Ruby's dad. Mm. And on the eve of my 40th birthday, he wasn't in my life or on my list of people in my life on that date. So, you know, that was obviously conversation number one. And my mum said to me at the time, she said, whatever you do, be prepared to get your armour on because you're going to need it. And, you know, gosh, she was right. So, you know, there was a lot of surprises from people that I really didn't expect them to be a certain way with me. So that it was tricky, and it wasn't the easiest 2 years really. But the biggest step was just being sure it was the right decision for me. You know, for once taking care of what I wanted, both then and in the future, and just going for it. And whatever the consequences were, you know, I was prepared to overcome them.
Wow. So it sounds, Michelle, that you really listened to yourself and gained that true clarity about what it is that you wanted for your life. And despite adversity and some courageous conversations, you were really able to live your truth. So yeah, wow, that is really powerful. And yeah, I'm sure our listeners will get a lot out of that story.
Good.
So I'm really curious, what is one big piece of advice that you would give to someone?
Well, it's to be truthful, I've pinched it from the airline industry. It is that you have to put your oxygen mask on before helping anybody else. You know, I talk about, and I've just had a conversation with Mark really about, you know, we're all told to give so much to others and, you know, be kind to others. And the truth is, the only person you have to be kind to and be truthful to is yourself. And first and foremost, because if you are firing on all cylinders, if you feel like you've been shot out of a rocket every morning and are fully charged, everything's just working. Everything will just work. People will just be happy. They might not always agree, but they'll be happy because you are happy. And I think people need to realize and remember that it's, you know, they should never underestimate the power of their person and their language they use. So just take care of yourself before you even focus on anybody else.
Well, it's an amazing piece of advice, and yes, I completely agree. You know, so many times we end up putting everybody else before ourselves, but you know, as you said, we need to put on our own oxygen mask before we put on somebody else's.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Thank you. And so what is one thing that you think our listeners should do to make movement today towards the ideal, healthy, balanced lifestyle?
Well, I think first of all they have to design and have to think about what that healthy, balanced lifestyle looks like. I do quite a lot of work around, you know, we're all taught about, you know, work-life balance. The truth is there's no such thing anymore. In my opinion, I think it's all about, you know, work-life effectiveness. There's no such thing as balance anymore. You know, life is absolutely crazy. We get shot at from all angles. There's more people demanding on us as individuals and as businesswomen all the time. So I think I think the first thing that every businesswoman should do, and particularly the women, because we often have the mother duty. Obviously, you know, we're not just running businesses, we also are also running homes, and, you know, the primary person responsible for the children often. So I think, you know, it's a blank piece of paper, and really think about what they want their future version of themselves to look like. You know, what does awesome and amazing look like for them on a date or an age in the future, and break their life down into, you know, personally, you know, into physically, emotionally, financially, their environment, their relationships, you know, who's in their life and who isn't, professional, their reputation. I mean, you know, charity, spiritually, skills. I mean, there's a whole, you know, there's 10 key areas, but they need to write this stuff down, and they need to design it totally for themselves. You know, imagine they had all the money, all the time, and all the freedom in the world, and they've got to know what you know, what the best looks like for them, and only for them.
Fantastic. I love it. I love that answer. It's, you know, it's so true. It's about getting so purposeful in regards to where you're headed, what is going to give you that ultimate fulfillment in each of those areas.
You have to do something that's so strong in your mind that any pain you have to go through to get it is worth it. And I think when you have a purpose that's that strong in your heart, in your mind, you know, you can pretty much achieve anything you set your mind to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, Michelle, if you could go back in time to your former self and tell yourself one thing, what would that be?
Oh my God. I think it would be around the whole just be true to yourself. You know, like I see it, you know, as children, particularly spending a lot of time with Ruby, you know, just on the tour around Australia and New Zealand, you know, Ruby at 5 years old with her sparkly shoes on, you know, walked up on stage after every presentation that I did, you know, and told everybody her name and did a little curtsy and, you know, totally stole the show. But, you know, as you get older, you listen to what people say too much, you know, you're influenced so much. So I think I wish I'd have done the exercise I did at 36, at 19. You know, I wish somebody would have said, you know, get a blank sheet of paper and decide what your future version of you looks like. And you see them on Facebook, you know, you see pictures and quotes saying, you know, who was you going to be before life told you who you should be, kind of thing, you know. And I think it's that I kind of knew the track that I was going on, but I got bumped off that track and I let myself. And I think that's my biggest regret, if I have one, because I knew I wasn't going down a path that was right for me, but I just kept brushing it under the carpet and just thinking it would sort itself out, and it did, but 20 years later. So I just wish I'd have just been a bit more honest with myself and not brushed anything under the carpet and just been totally, brutally truthful with myself.
Brilliant. Yeah, it sounds as though, you know, a lesson that you learned at 36. You would have absolutely loved to have learned that back when you were 19. And I think it really comes down to, as you said, just being truthful with yourself and, you know, not brushing things under the carpet, because eventually at 36 that's going to come back up. Yeah.
I think the other thing, Sarah, as well is not to compromise. You know, set your standards. You know, our parents try and instill standards in us as children, and we never really understand what they're trying to do. We just think they're nagging us and they're telling us what to do. You know, but it's just about setting your own personal, you know, self standards. And I think we should set those younger and live by them. They're almost our rule book. You know, every girl, every guy needs to have a rule book, and really don't compromise on them rules, because they're your own personal values ultimately. And, you know, what behaviours you'll put up with, what behaviours you won't, and you'll take those values and behaviours into the workplace, into your future family, with the friend circles that you build. And I think if we're just a bit tougher, a bit stronger with ourselves, I think it all works out in the end.
Wow. Yes, absolutely. And that, yeah, it's just living in alignment with your values or in alignment with those rules. And as you said, being a bit tougher on ourselves to make sure that we stick to those standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Don't compromise ever. I think there's two danger words in the English language in the dictionary, and one of them is comfortable. When people get comfortable, you're dead alive. I mean, you just, you'll go through the motions and you stop trying, you stop making an effort. Life becomes just kind of everyday. And compromise, when people start to compromise, all sorts of trouble starts to happen. So the two big no-go words are comfortable and compromise for me.
absolutely. I've just written those down. That is, yeah, it's powerful.
Totally. Gosh, I wish I knew that at 19.
Yeah.
So that's what I could have told myself.
Fantastic. And so, Michelle, I'm really curious if we talk about life balance now. What is the hardest challenge that you've had when trying to create that true balance up until now?
Well, up until the point that I realised I wasn't living my own life, I think after that, the challenge, I suppose, has been dealing with people that judge so easily. Like, people always have an opinion on you or what you're doing, and the truth is that social media, Facebook in particular, is almost, it's like I'm putting fuel to the fire, because I'm very active on social media, and people, whether it be family members, because I've had the worst reactions from family members that I ever anticipated getting. Some of my family don't even speak to me anymore, yet I wanted to live a happy life, and this made me happy, but they weren't happy with my decisions. So I've had family members, really close family members, that now no longer have anything to do with me, which is crazy. But I suppose it is that whole thing around, the hardest thing has been appreciating how much people judge you. They impose their own opinions, their own, they get 2 and 2 and make 5, and then that's their opinion of you, and it's founded on nothing, really. It might be what they're seeing on Facebook, but people make opinions of people really easy. And the biggest lesson that I've taken away from this whole experience is I very rarely judge anybody, actually, because there's always another side to their life. There's stuff they're dealing with every single day that nobody even knows about. And I suppose going through the really challenging part was, having to wake up every single morning with a smile on my face when Ruby would walk into my bedroom and go, "Mummy, are you awake?" And I used to, it doesn't matter what had gone on the day before or what challenges I had the day that was coming up, I had to wake up with a smile on my face every single morning, even though I didn't feel like it. So, there's been lots of different challenges as the journey has, as I have worked hard to get that balance and that effectiveness in my business and my life. But I've come out of it as a person that's, I think, a little bit more easygoing, I guess. So I'm happy. My life is wow, and I'm happy with it.
Fantastic. Yeah, your life definitely is wow.
I have a necklace to prove it too.
Oh, it is awesome. It's awesome. And, I love how you mention about other people's judgments and their opinions that they make of you, where, really those opinions can be completely off. And I love how you mentioned that for yourself, you didn't allow those to mold who you were. It's
been hard because the people that were judging me, I thought I'd have earned the benefit of the doubt from. But like, again, you hear all these sayings, the people that you least expect to support you are really the ones that really step in, and are there when you just do not expect them to be. So I think when life is good, you never really know who your true friends are, who the people in your family who care about you the most. It's only really when times are very difficult that the people that, you know, really care about you genuinely are there for you. So yeah, people judge, and you know, it's almost like bullies in the playground at school. You know, you get it in. We're suffering with it in life all the time. You know, it's happening all around us all the time. You just got to be very thick-skinned and know you're heading in the right direction for the right reasons, and it is literally water off a duck's back.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think being thick-skinned and knowing that you're headed on your path can be quite reassuring in situations like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Michelle, I know that, you know, for me, life balance is about creating genuine fulfillment in each area of my life, including my family, my relationships, my health, my business, and also ensuring that I get enough me time.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious because I know that it is different for everyone. And you've already mentioned for you it's more about life effectiveness. But what is true balance to you? And why does having true balance matter to you as a successful businesswoman?
I think I'll tell you a very quick story. I think I was once sitting in a very busy, and this was after it had all really happened, and I did a Canadian tour for 3 weeks, and I sat in a restaurant having breakfast in a hotel in Montreal. And I remember the restaurant was absolutely crazy busy. There was people shouting at waitresses, and they were understaffed, and it was awful. And I remember sitting there feeling like I had like a mini force field around me, and it was almost like it was all bouncing off this force field. It was a really strange feeling. It was like the world was just happening and I was watching it all unfold, but it had no impact on me. That is balance. True balance is almost when you're just so calm regardless of what influences and what impacts and what challenges, and I was almost at ease, and I was just about to walk on stage to 800 people, so it wasn't like I wasn't doing anything all day. You know, it was a big day, but it was like I had a force field around me, and that was probably the moment that I realized I'd cracked it. I'd literally, truly cracked it. I'd kind of got it. I'd got it all, and I didn't care what all these people were arguing about, you know, whether their eggs were done over easy or I don't know, but it didn't matter. It just really didn't matter. I'd cracked it.
Wow, that is powerful, and what a great visual, you know, that force field around you. Yeah, that's a really lovely explanation of true balance.
Yeah, well, I think that's it, and I didn't realise it until I experienced all this stuff hurtling towards me, and it was just bouncing off in this restaurant.
Fantastic. And so, Michelle, what is one balanced living golden nugget that you believe everyone should live by?
I think it's literally what I've said. It's put you know, you have to put your oxygen mask on before helping anybody else. Like, it's just rule number one. In fact, it's the only rule. You know, like, I realized I'd got to kind of the age, I had a 3-year-old. I wasn't working out. I wasn't looking after my diet. I wasn't having any proper rest. I wasn't having any just chill out time. The second I started doing those things and putting me, unfortunately and fortunately, before anybody else, you know, I mean, it's quite difficult with having a daughter too, obviously, because you know, she is the most important thing in my life, but there's no good me focusing all my efforts. And this is the problem with mums generally, is they give everything to their babies and there's actually nothing left for anybody else. And then they lose themselves. They spend all day talking about car seats, and their relationships fall apart, and it's just a disaster. Like, you know, if they just took care of themselves a little bit more, you know, just put your oxygen mask on before helping anybody else. You know, rule number one.
Brilliant. I love that rule. That is going to stick with me, I think, always.
Good.
Love it. And so I've just got a couple of quick fire questions for you before we wrap up. So what is the best advice for your industry that you've ever received?
Gosh, I went to a conference and there was a speaker called, it was at the MDRT $1 Million Round Table. Actually, there's a few. Can I put 3 in? This is not very quick fire.
Yes, no, that's all good. You can definitely put in.
They're more sayings actually than advice. And there was one speaker that says that children spell love TIME. That was the first one. The second one was don't die an unlived life. And the third one, which actually needs a little bit more of an explanation, but this guy said to me, he said, what does 1 + 1 make? And I said 2. And he says, no, 1 and 1 make 11. So when you are with the right person, you spend your time with the right people, it exponentially multiplies the value, the fun, the value, just everything. It doesn't just make 2, it makes 11. Great. So there's 3.
Lovely. Very cool. And I'd love to know, can you share with us one of your personal habits that you strongly believe contributes to your successful life?
I have 4.
Okay. Yes, you can, please.
Okay, there's 4 essential things that every girl needs in their life. They need a Vitamix blender and a smoothie book. Definitely green smoothies, protein smoothies, whatever smoothies you can literally get into your body, go for smoothies. You need the app, which is Fit Star Yoga, because for a busy mom and a busy businesswoman, bedtime yoga, morning yoga, afternoon yoga, just get it in as often as you can. Jillian Michaels' 30-Day Shred DVD. Or you can download it onto YouTube. And just lots of sleep. I mean, just lots of sleep. Whenever you can, just catch 40 winks.
Great.
You get old really quickly. After you get past about 38, wrinkles start coming a lot faster than they did before. So you might feel great, but you've got to look great too.
Absolutely. That balance. Fantastic. Yeah. And who's your hero, Michelle?
Bizarre. This is, I suppose, a bizarre question. I am actually my own hero, because I remember sitting there, that very early June, thinking, "Oh my God, if anyone can pull this off, it has to be me." And there was many moments when, when I felt like I'd been abandoned by the most important people in my life. To get through this, I used to literally hold my own hand, and it's crazy now I think back, and I sometimes occasionally do it still, and I used to literally hold my hand and say, I've got you, and that's, I might be sitting on the sofa, or because it doesn't matter, people might not come up with the goods when you need them, but you've always got yourself. So I suppose after all the stuff that I've been through, and I'm sure it's not over yet, I am, and my little Ruby, I mean, to be fair, she makes me laugh, and she's a little carbon miniature version of me, which is kind of scary. But she is, because she's a diva, there's no doubt about it. But then she's my daughter, so what do I expect? But, their kids are fearless. Like, she tottered up on stage with her little sparkly shoes on, sounded like the Queen, and the Australians and the New Zealanders just absolutely loved her. So, I think me, and then a very close second is my little miniature version, who is actually technically known as Mini Miss Wow. I'm Little Miss Wow, and she's Mini Miss Wow. She's even got her own Twitter account. So.
Gorgeous. That's fantastic. Yes, that I love how you said that you yourself are your own hero, and second runner up is Mini Miss Wow. Love it.
A little miniature version of it.
Yes. So, Michelle, we're going to wrap up now, but if people are interested in finding out more about you, how can you be reached?
Well, obviously, I'm the best place to get hold of me, obviously, is on social media. So, Twitter, I am at Little Miss Wow, and Wow has two W's, so it has WOWW, and that stands for Ways of Wow in the World. So I am Little Miss Ways of Wow in the World, and obviously on Facebook too. So I love getting messages, particularly when people have really set their heart on overcoming whatever challenges they're dealing with in their life, or they can email me at michelle@standardsinternational.co.uk. I would love to hear from everybody, and of course connecting on LinkedIn. There's lots of ways you can reach me. Just Google me.
Great, thank you. And I know you have a special giveaway for our audience today. So what is it, and where should our audience go to get that?
So on the Standards International website, and what I might even do is to try and share it on my LinkedIn page as well. So, or I can even send it to you, Sarah, so you can actually get it up there and share it. It's actually the Future You worksheet. So that process I went through of designing my future version of myself, on the eve of my 40th birthday, that comes in an actual workbook, a little tiny workbook, which I would love people to download and actually work through. You need to have a very honest, brutal conversation with yourself doing it. Honesty is absolutely paramount, and having absolutely no fear too. So they can download it from Sarah, if you want to share it and put it up on your website, that's absolutely fine. And just I'd love them to do it and repeat it. Keep that process going where they're checking in with themselves. I probably repeat it every 6 to 8 weeks to make sure I'm absolutely on track, because we get bumped off track so easy.
Fantastic. What an amazing opportunity for our listeners to get hold of that. So thank you so much, Michelle.
You're very welcome.
Well, I love, Michelle, just one of the key things that you said today that is still really ringing true for me. Well, there's actually two. First of all is putting on your own oxygen mask before anybody else's. And secondly are the two words comfortable and compromise that should not be in the dictionary. But I refuse to live my life by.
Totally. Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's really powerful. So are there any last words that you'd like to share with our audience?
In the new Cinderella movie, which I have watched probably a zillion times, Cinderella's mother says to Cinderella before she dies, she says, "Be kind and have courage." And that's exactly what we all need, to be kind and have courage, and bundles of it.
Absolutely. Yes, it's a beautiful movie and a lovely quote. Oh, yeah. Very nice. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. It has been absolutely a pleasure to have Little Miss Wow on our show today. So this is Sarah Devereaux from the Balancing Life and Heels show, helping business women to achieve success and balance in both their personal and their professional lives. Have an amazing day and stay tuned for more interviews.